This is Shivani Marotra, and you are listening to 91.1 Rec Radio. Today's Tech Talk podcast explores the idea of what exactly constitutes student culture here at Georgia Tech. For starters, what even is student culture? Well, a formal definition would be the ways that humans in a given society make meaning, whether it is of their environment, a cause, or of themselves. And so, I made it my mission to delve deeper into campus culture by interviewing students to further my understanding of what it means to be a GT student. Because I live on East Campus, my interviewees were mostly first year students living on East Campus, and if I were to go about talking to students again, I would talk to those living on the other side too. After many discussions, I came to the conclusion that East Campus is definitely a vibrant side of the school because of its proximity to Bobby Dodd Stadium, two dining halls, the Greek houses, and even the Clough Undergraduate Learning Commons. I realized that this side of campus greatly fuels freshman academic and social life here at Tech. I started out my investigation of campus life by first discussing traditions here at Tech, and a common trend amongst several first years was acknowledging the tradition of clean, old-fashioned hate between UGA and Georgia Tech, a fierce rivalry that dates back to the school's first football game against each other in 1893 that resulted in a Tech win.
Of UGA, we hate them a lot because of things they did, and yeah, we still hate them, and yeah.
Even though many freshmen are not aware of why exactly they should hate UGA, they know that as a Yellow Jacket, they are obliged to partake in the loathing hatred against their Athens enemy. And since the Yellow Jackets' first victory against UGA at the turn of the 20th century, Georgia Tech has prided itself in football culture.
So, do you think that we really have a strong school spirit here on campus? During football games? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, can you kind of elaborate more on that? Let's see. Every football game before it starts, I get woken up by the parade, usually, because I'm on East and I'm right next to the stadium. So, we hear that, and, like, there's tailgating everywhere. The Greek life is, like, intense during that day. Everyone's like eating food and partying before the game. Could you?
But why have these traditions and football culture stuck around and integrated itself into Tech's culture? Well, to begin with, Georgia Tech's a large Southern public university. As a Division I NCAA-backed school, football is heavily funded and invested in, and thus it also generates a lot of money and publicity for the school. Football, as a Southern tradition, dates back to the Civil War when the South looked at the game as a way to beat the North, especially during low morale after the war, while the South was still an agrarian-based economy struggling in comparison to the industrialized North. And with the social change of allowing African American players in the 1960s to play the game, the popularity of Southern football grew as a result of even better teams. In regards to the intense rivalry practiced here at Tech, beating UGA is a symbol of pride and masculinity for the school, especially since the school was mostly male and the engineering discipline itself is still heavily male-dominated. Georgia Tech's very own fight song focuses on the esteem of being one hell of an engineer, and it is at these football games in which students are able to show off their sentiment of superiority to UGA's liberal arts-focused education. These traditions practiced at Tech, such as stealing the tea or not touching the Rambling Wreck as a freshman until after winning the UGA game, or even attending football games, are ways for students to create a single common identity to identify with other students. It helps students, especially freshmen, to develop a better sense of belonging to the school, because regardless of who you are, your interests, or your beliefs, you have one common goal: to hate Georgia. Being involved in campus traditions also mark a transition for many students from high school to college, symbolic of independence and establishing a sense of being part of the greater Georgia Tech community. Now, another common theme I noticed throughout all my interviews was the reference to Georgia Tech's Greek life in relation to social life. with about a quarter of students involved in Greek life as compared to the national average of 9%. Fraternities and sororities have a strong presence on campus, but are seemingly not the dominant force of social activities.
Do you think that Greek life is a strong part of Georgia Tech's community? I think it is for those of the students who are in it. I mean, I'm not in one, and I don't think it's like super prominent. But I mean, everyone like goes there for parties. But I mean, if you're not in it, then I don't think it's that prominent. Besides, if you want to go out on Friday nights.
Greek life at Georgia Tech is not exclusive to a certain set of people, but is rather accepting and perpetuates a community which one can join, socialize with, network with, and even transition to college life with.
I mean, the Greek life is really great. I've met a lot of girls right away. Became close to a lot of girls right away, and already made contacts like for classes and for possible work options, as well as always having someone to just go to lunch with. So, did that help you in the transition from high school to tech? Yeah, that definitely helped. Because you had your other pledge class of all these new first years, and then you had all these older girls who were overly excited on helping you. Like, if you go up to a girl and say, "Hey, can you can I follow you around? I don't know anyone here." They get really excited. It's kind of adorable.
Students who are part of sororities or fraternities are deeply invested in it, and Greek life as a whole contributes to two significant facets of Georgia Tech life. One, being part of a smaller community within the school, and two, being engaged and passionate about whatever you wish to pursue. Here at Georgia Tech, I noticed that despite being such a huge school, there are several smaller communities that exist that one can join, whether it be Greek life or programs like the Grand Challenges program or different clubs too. For example, I discussed the Living Learning Community Grand Challenges with one student in which students live together and work on projects together too.
So we all live in Howell together, 110 of us. And then we take one class per semester together, working on projects inside and outside of class. And we basically just go to events together. We have talks with people like the dean and the vice provost and everything. We do stuff in Atlanta together. So just one big community, basically. So what motivated you to be part of the Grand Challenges program? I just wanted a place which was like a smaller community within tech because it's so big.
Tech's plethora of organizations to help students establish a sense of belonging really do make a difference here at Georgia Tech. Students are able to make friends and find people whom they can share memories with. And although many of my interviewees did not elaborate on student activism, few mentioned a sense of culture here, of service here at Georgia Tech.
I think that as college students, we start to gain our voices about social issues we are passionate about. I know that a lot of sororities have a specific organization or social issue they raise money for. So, for example, my service sorority, our overarching social issue of the national chapter of Omega Phi Alpha is mental health. That's awesome. And this year, our specific chapter's mission is Mental Health Matters.
The lack of understanding student activism may be a result of students still focusing on adjusting to college life, and also students still trying to grasp an understanding of the world in order to formulate their opinions and find something they're extremely passionate about. It appears that here at Tech, you can always find organizations that fit your interests and make friends that share similar viewpoints or engage with similar extracurriculars because of the diversity of interests and clubs here. The diversity of interests also supports the idea that student culture is very accepting, especially if so many different organizations can thrive in such a large college environment. Transitioning to the academics here at Tech, every interviewee qualified that Tech is hard but also manageable.
I mean, like, obviously it's hard, and when you have, like, one of those crazy weeks with a ton of tests and homework, it can be kind of overwhelming. But I think you just have to find a balance. You can't get too overwhelmed, because then it'll really get to you and kind of, like, drag you down. You have to be sure you get a good support group, friends, community, and you have to take breaks. So I think it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. But it's not so much that you can't handle if you know how to, like, take care of yourself.
In simply observing students at the Starbucks, a chain of coffee shops that usually functions as the hub of social interaction and which is conveniently located in the Clough Commons, I noted that interestingly enough, students take advantage of the built environment and use the coffee shop mostly for individual studying or collaborating on group projects as opposed to socializing on the sofas or casually hanging out on the high tables. I have even witnessed students asleep on the sofas while studying, also supporting the observation that because Tech students are so caring and invested in what they do, they also work very hard to keep up with the pace of college. A humorous contradiction I found here, though, is that college students who are stereotypically broke spend a great deal of time studying at Starbucks and investing in coffee and caffeine to help them stay awake. But it is this work hard and tech is difficult attitude that fosters a sense of community and unity amongst the students as well. As students struggle through piles of homework and endless hours of studying together, they grow close and become more empathetic towards one another because they understand that each student is facing some kind of similar hurdle. And finally, what is the ultimate goal after one gets into tech?
Dig it out, that's it. Graduate. Don't die, don't be an alcoholic, that kind of thing.
Although my interviewees seemed to address my questions with a fairly positive note and seemed to appreciate Tech as an institution, they understand that they will be put to the test over the next few years and will be greatly challenged, but the final payoff will be when landing a job or that graduate school acceptance. And so my final advice to a first year after investigating campus culture is to get involved and engage and build the campus culture here at Georgia Tech for the next 4, 5, or 6 years one is here as a Yellow Jacket.